In 1966, Honda was still known as a motorcycle company, trying to prove they could build real cars. Their answer was the S800, a sports car so unusual that it challenged everything people thought they knew about automotive engineering. The S800 looked innocent enough. At just 1,500 pounds, or 680 kilograms, it was lighter than most modern motorcycles. But under its compact hood sat something extraordinary. A 791 cubic centimeter dual overhead cam engine that produced 70 horsepower. That might not sound impressive until you learn the magic number, 8,500 revolutions per minute. In 1967, this was the highest revving production car engine on the planet. Formula One cars of the era rarely exceeded 8,000 revolutions per minute. The S800's redline was higher than anything you could buy from Ferrari, Porsche, or Lamborghini. Honda achieved this by applying motorcycle engineering principles to car design. The engine featured motorcycle-style valve gear, precision balancing, and components built to tolerances that would make Swiss watchmakers jealous. The performance numbers tell an interesting story. Top speed was around 97 to 100 miles per hour, or 156 to 161 kilometers per hour. That wasn't particularly fast compared to American muscle cars or European exotics. 0 to 60 took 13.6 seconds, which was respectable for a car with less than 800 cubic centimeters of displacement. But those numbers miss the real point of the S800. This wasn't just a car. It was Honda's technological showcase. The company wanted to prove they could build the most sophisticated small displacement engine in the world. Early versions used a chain drive to the rear wheels, just like a motorcycle. This unique system was eventually replaced with a conventional shaft drive, but it showed Honda's willingness to think differently. The S800 competed in a fascinating market segment. It faced off against cars like the Austin Healey Sprite, MG Midget, Triumph Spitfire, Datsun Fairlady, and Fiat 850 Spider. Among these competitors, the Honda stood out for its engine technology and build quality. Contemporary reviewers noted that while it might not be the fastest car in its class, it was arguably the most sophisticated. Honda's Racing Service Club took the S800 to another level entirely. These factory-tuned versions were undefeated in their class and proved the engine's potential. At the 1968 12 Hours of Suzuka, an RSC-prepared S800 finished third overall and first in the GT1 class. The racing engines could rev to 11,500 revolutions per minute and produced significantly more power than the street versions. Production numbers were always going to be limited. Honda built exactly 11,536 S800 ESR between 1966 and 1970. The early production run included 242 coupes and 752 convertibles. Both hardtop and roadster configurations were available, giving buyers options that larger manufacturers often didn't provide. The S800 earned recognition as the fastest sub-1-liter car in production in 1967. This wasn't just marketing hyperbole. Independent testing confirmed that no other car under 1,000 cubic centimeters could match its top speed. The combination of lightweight construction, aerodynamic efficiency, and that screaming engine created something truly special. But success in Japan didn't translate to global domination. The S800 was never officially sold in the North American market, despite Honda's attempts to meet emissions regulations. The high-revving engine produced excessive hydrocarbons that couldn't pass the increasingly strict environmental standards of the late 1960s. This regulatory failure proved fatal. By 1970, Honda faced a choice. They could invest heavily in cleaning up the S800's emissions, or they could focus on family cars that offered better profit margins and broader appeal. The company chose practicality over passion. Production ended in May 1970, and Honda wouldn't build another sports car for 30 years. The S800's disappearance wasn't about poor sales or bad reviews. It vanished because the automotive world was changing. Environmental regulations favored larger, cleaner engines over high-performance small ones. Honda's engineering brilliance couldn't overcome the harsh realities of emission standards and market forces. Today, the S800 is remembered as a glimpse of what might have been. It proved that small engines could be sophisticated, that lightweight cars could be fast, and that motorcycle companies could build exceptional automobiles. When Honda finally returned to sports cars with the S2000 in 1999, they drew direct inspiration from the S800's high revving philosophy. Current market values reflect the S800's cult status. Recent sales have ranged from $13,500 for project cars to over $91,000 for pristine examples. The average price hovers around $37,000, proving that collectors appreciate Honda's early sports car experiments. In March 1963, with just 2 months until Le Mans, Aston Martin's team manager John Wyer sent a memo that would create automotive legend. The memo outlined exact requirements for what would become the DP215, the ultimate evolution of Aston Martin's racing program and their final factory racing effort. This wasn't just another racing car project. David Brown himself approved the ambitious plan, assigning it to chief engineer Ted Cutting, with engine development by the legendary Tadek Marek. The DP215 represented the end of an era, Aston Martin's last serious attempt at Le Mans domination after their stunning 1959 victory. The concept was brilliant in its simplicity. The DP215 would serve as the hare, designed to break Ferrari by setting an unsustainable pace. While Ferrari engines blew trying to keep up, the accompanying DP214s would cruise to victory. It was psychological warfare disguised as engineering excellence. Under the hood sat Tadek Marek's masterpiece, a 4.0-liter inline-six, producing 345 brake horsepower at 5,750 revolutions per minute. 350 DCO Weber carburetors fed the twin-plug engine configuration, sourced at enormous expense for this final racing push. The power delivery was smooth yet brutal, generating 330 pound-feet of torque. The chassis modifications were equally revolutionary. Engineers moved the engine 8 inches rearward in a modified DB4 GT chassis, dramatically improving weight distribution. Wind tunnel testing revealed the swept cam tail design was essential to prevent massive rear lift at speeds above 175 miles per hour or 282 kilometers per hour. These aerodynamic innovations made history. Phil Hill officially recorded the DP215 as the first car to exceed 300 kilometers per hour at Le Mans, hitting 198.6 miles per hour on the Mulsanne Straight. More importantly, Hill described it as light and controllable at such speeds, testament to the advanced engineering that made it stable at these tremendous velocities. The DP215's racing debut came at Le Mans 1963. Running 9th overall and showing tremendous pace, everything seemed perfect. The car was fulfilling its role as the Ferrari breaking hare, setting blistering lap times that forced competitors into increasingly desperate responses. Then disaster struck. After just 2 hours and 12 minutes, only 29 laps into the 24-hour endurance test, transmission failure ended the dream. The teeth on the input bevel had failed, likely overwhelmed by the extra torque from the enlarged 4.0-liter engine. This problem had never occurred with smaller-engined DBR cars. A subsequent appearance at the 12 Hours of Rhymes saw identical transmission failure on lap 4. The DP215's competitive career was over before it truly began, taking Aston Martin's factory racing program with it. The timing couldn't have been worse. David Brown's financial situation was deteriorating rapidly, and the racing department closure was inevitable. the DP215 became an expensive monument to what might have been the fastest front-engined Aston Martin ever created, capable of changing Le Mans history if the transmission had held together. Only one DP215 was ever built, making it one of history's most exclusive racing cars. This sole survivor was eventually reunited with its original engine after decades of separation, selling at R.M. Sotheby's Monterey in 2018 for a record-breaking price reflecting its unique significance. The DP215 represents more than a failed racing car. It's the final chapter of British racing's golden age, embodying the ambitious engineering and gentleman racer spirit that defined Aston Martin's greatest era. Had those transmission components held together, we might be telling a very different story about 1960s racing dominance. In 1953, American car buyers got their first look at two revolutionary sports cars that would change automotive history. The first was the Chevrolet Corvette, which would become an icon. The second was the Kaiser Darrin, which would become a footnote. Both cars used fiberglass bodies and represented Detroit's attempt to build true sports cars. Only one survived. The Kaiser Darrin was the brainchild of Howard "Dutch" Darrin, one of America's most talented automotive designers. Darrin had spent decades perfecting his vision of the perfect sports car, and by 1952, he was ready to build it. The result was unlike anything American buyers had ever seen: a low, sweeping two-seater with sliding doors that disappeared into the front fenders. Kaiser Fraser Corporation was struggling to survive in the post-war automotive market. They needed something dramatic to attract attention and generate sales. Darrin's prototype seemed like the perfect solution. Here was a genuinely innovative design that beat Chevrolet to market as America's first fiberglass-bodied production sports car prototype. The Darrin specifications reflected the realities of 1954 American automotive engineering. Under the hood sat a Willys F-head inline six-cylinder engine, displacing 161 cubic inches, or 2.6 liters. It produced 90 horsepower at 4,200 revolutions per minute, and 127 pound-feet of torque at just 1,600 revolutions per minute. Buyers could choose between a 3-speed manual transmission, a 3-speed manual with overdrive, or an automatic transmission. Performance was adequate for the era, but unexceptional by sports car standards. Top speed reached 95 to 96 miles per hour, or 153 to 154 kilometers per hour. 0 to 60 took between 14.6 and 16.3 seconds, depending on the transmission choice. The car weighed 2,176 pounds total, but the fiberglass body contributed only 300 pounds to that figure. For comparison, this was considerably slower than the Corvette, Nash Healey, or Jaguar XK120. But performance wasn't really the point. The Darrin was designed as what contemporary reviewers called a boulevard cruiser. It was meant to be seen, not raced. The styling was undeniably dramatic, with its heart-shaped grille, split windshield, and signature Darrin dip behind the front doors. The 3-position landau top allowed for various open-air configurations. The sliding doors were Darrin's masterstroke and his curse. He had been promoting this design for decades, claiming it offered safety advantages in accidents. The doors retracted completely into the front fender wells, creating unobstructed entry and exit openings. When they worked properly, they were genuinely innovative and practical. Unfortunately, they often didn't work properly. A comprehensive review in October 1954 captured the Darrin's contradictions perfectly. It was praised as an ideal boulevard cruiser, but noted it would probably be beaten by 745 cubic centimeter 2-cylinder Dyna-Panhards in competition. The steering was described as good as any available on imported models, requiring just 2.75 turns from lock to lock. However, the review also highlighted serious flaws. Chassis vibration over 70 miles per hour became unbearably uncomfortable at 90 miles per hour. The narrow door openings created by the sliding mechanism made entry and exit awkward despite the innovation. Most damaging of all, the sliding door mechanism was prone to jamming, trapping occupants inside or leaving the car unsecured. Kaiser Frazer had ambitious plans for the Darrin. They wanted to build 1,000 units per year, establishing a profitable niche in the growing American sports car market. The reality was far different. Production began in January 1954 and ended in August of the same year after just 435 units plus 6 prototypes had been built. Several factors contributed to this spectacular failure. The price was a major issue. At $3,670, the Darrin cost more than a Cadillac 62 or Lincoln Capri. Buyers could get significantly more luxury and performance for their money elsewhere. The car's practical limitations became apparent quickly. The sliding doors jammed regularly. Interior space was limited. Weather protection was marginal. Perhaps most importantly, the Darrin simply wasn't fast enough to justify its sports car pretensions. Contemporary buyers could choose the Corvette, which was quicker and backed by Chevrolet's dealer network. Import buyers had access to genuine European sports cars like the Jaguar XK120, which offered superior performance and prestige. The final nail in the coffin came from an unexpected source: the weather. A freak snowstorm buried 50 completed Darrins for months, rendering them unsellable due to weather damage. Combined with poor sales, mounting inventory, and an expiring lease on their Jackson, Michigan production facility, Kaiser Frazer had no choice but to end production. But the story didn't end there. Howard Darrin himself purchased the remaining factory inventory and continued selling modified versions through his Hollywood dealership until 1957. Some of these post-production cars received significant upgrades. Darrin installed superchargers on several examples, boosting power to 135 horsepower. 6 cars received 304 horsepower. Cadillac Eldorado V8 engines, transforming them into genuine high-performance machines. These modified Darrins could achieve 0 to 60 in around 10 seconds, with top speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. They proved what the car could have been with adequate power. Unfortunately, these improvements came too late to save the production version. The Kaiser Darrin represented a fascinating what-if moment in American automotive history. It demonstrated that American manufacturers could build genuinely innovative sports cars with distinctive styling and advanced construction techniques. The fiberglass body technology would become standard for the Corvette and influenced countless other designs. But innovation alone wasn't enough. The Darrin needed better performance, more reliable mechanical systems, and competitive pricing to survive. It also needed the backing of a major manufacturer with adequate resources and dealer networks. Kaiser Frazer, struggling to survive in a brutal market, couldn't provide the support the car required. Today, the Kaiser Darrin's extreme rarity makes every surviving example valuable. Collectors appreciate the car's historical significance as America's second fiberglass-bodied production car and the only production car ever built with sliding doors. The unique styling and innovative construction ensure that these cars always attract attention at shows and auctions. The post-production modifications by Darrin himself are especially prized. The supercharged examples and the 6 cars with Cadillac V8 engines represent what the Darrin could have been with proper development. They're rolling proof that the basic concept was sound, even if the execution was flawed.
The Oldsmobile Jetfire. In May 1960, while most American automakers were focused on making engines bigger and thirstier, a small team of Oldsmobile engineers was working on something revolutionary: Led by veteran engineer Gib Butler, who had previously helped develop the legendary Rocket Vibe 8 engine in 1949, they were about to create America's first volume production turbocharged car. The Oldsmobile Jetfire wasn't just another performance car. It represented a fundamental shift in how Americans thought about making power. Instead of the traditional "there's no replacement for displacement" philosophy, the Jetfire proved you could extract serious horsepower from a compact engine using forced induction. The heart of this revolutionary machine was a 215 cubic inch aluminum V8 engine equipped with a Garrett A-Research T5 turbocharger. This wasn't some crude aftermarket setup. It was a sophisticated system featuring an integral wastegate to control boost pressure and prevent engine damage. The turbo delivered 5 psi of boost at 2,200 revolutions per minute, helping the small V8 produce 215 horsepower at 4,600 revolutions per minute and 300 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 revolutions per minute. This achieved the coveted benchmark of 1 horsepower per cubic inch of displacement, something that normally required exotic racing engines or massive displacement. The performance was genuinely impressive for 1962. This compact Oldsmobile could outrun much larger, more expensive cars. But the Jetfire's most innovative feature was something called the rocket fluid injection system. This wasn't marketing nonsense. It was a real engineering solution to a real problem. The system automatically injected a 50/50ths mixture of methanol and distilled water into the intake stream when boost pressure reached certain levels. This cooled the intake air temperatures and prevented the dreaded engine knock that could destroy turbocharged engines. The Jetfire debuted as a mid-year model in 1962, arriving just weeks after the Chevrolet Corvair Monza Spider, which also featured a turbo. However, the Jetfire claimed the distinction of being the first volume production turbo car in America because it went into regular production rather than limited availability. Initially, the development team had considered using a traditional Roots blower system, but they pivoted to the exhaust-driven turbocharger after working closely with Gilbert Burrell, Oldsmobile's chief engine designer. This decision proved prescient, as turbocharging would eventually become the dominant forced induction technology in the automotive world. So why did this groundbreaking car disappear so quickly? The answer reveals a critical lesson about introducing revolutionary technology. Oldsmobile made a massive strategic error by keeping the Jetfire's development secret from their own dealer network. When the car launched, there was no service manual available, and mechanics had no training on the complex turbo system. Imagine buying a revolutionary new car, only to have your local dealer tell you they had no idea how to fix it. The rocket fluid system, while technically brilliant, proved to be the car's Achilles heel. Many owners simply didn't understand that they needed to regularly refill the special fluid tank. When the methanol water mixture ran out, the engine would suffer from severe knock under boost, potentially causing expensive damage. Owners who experienced problems often found that their local Oldsmobile dealer was completely unprepared to diagnose or repair the sophisticated turbo system. The specialized fuel injection system required careful maintenance and understanding that most owners and mechanics simply didn't possess. The turbo itself was remarkably advanced for its time, but 1960s maintenance culture wasn't ready for such complexity. Cost was another factor. The turbo system added significant expense compared to conventional engines, and the compact car market was evolving rapidly. GM decided to move the F85 and Cutlass models to a larger intermediate platform for 1964, effectively ending the Jetfire's short production run. Production numbers tell the story of missed opportunity. In 1962, Oldsmobile built 3,765 Jetfires during the mid-year introduction. The following year saw 5,842 units produced, bringing the total to just 9,617 cars. Today, only an estimated 150 cars survive with restoration potential. Many Jetfires met an unfortunate fate when their turbo systems failed. They were simply converted to naturally aspirated engines, erasing their historical significance forever. Some owners discovered they could bypass the turbo system entirely, though this dramatically reduced performance and defeated the car's entire purpose. The irony is almost painful. The Jetfire pioneered technology that would eventually become ubiquitous in the automotive industry. Modern cars routinely use turbocharging to increase power while improving fuel efficiency. The lessons learned from the Jetfire's failures, the importance of dealer preparation, service support, and consumer education, became standard practice for introducing revolutionary automotive technology. Today, an original numbers-matching Jetfire with a functioning turbo system is automotive gold. Restored examples can fetch between $40,000 and $80,000, depending on condition and authenticity. The rarity stems not just from low production numbers, but from the tragic fact that so many were modified or had their revolutionary turbo systems removed over the years. The aluminum 215 volts 8 engine found new life in an unexpected place: British sports cars. Rover purchased the rights to the engine design and used it to power everything from the P5 sedan to various kit cars. But the turbo version remained uniquely American, a fascinating glimpse into what could have been if the automotive world had been ready for forced induction 2 decades earlier than it actually embraced it.
The Triumph TR8 was supposed to be Britain's answer to the Chevrolet Corvette, a V8-powered sports car that could compete with American muscle while maintaining distinctly British character. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about how corporate chaos can destroy even the most promising automotive projects. Development began in 1972, with Triumph engineers dreaming of creating the perfect English Corvette. The wedge-shaped TR7 provided an ideal foundation, and the proven Rover V8 offered reliable power. Everything seemed aligned for success, but British Leyland's perpetual crisis machine was just getting started. By 1978, approximately 145 prototype cars had been built, demonstrating serious commitment to the project. Around 150 pre-production V8 coupes rolled off the Speak production line in 1977, ready for the planned 1978 market launch. Then British Leyland's legendary labor dispute struck again, forcing cancellation of the entire 1978 model year. The TR8's heart was the aluminum Rover V8, a 3.5-liter 3,523 cubic centimeter power plant, derived from the early 1960s Buick 215 cubic inch engine that Rover had acquired from General Motors. This was a smart choice, avoiding Triumph's own problematic single overhead cam V8 from the troubled Stag. Early carbureted models produced 133 brake horsepower at 5,000 revolutions per minute, while later fuel-injected versions reached 148 brake horsepower. The California-specific fuel-injected variant generated 137 brake horsepower and 165 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 revolutions per minute. Weighing 1,203 kilograms, or 2,652 pounds, the TR8 could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.7 seconds, reaching top speeds between 119 and 135 miles per hour, depending on specification. The advanced Bosch L-Jetronic fuel injection system appeared on approximately 400 1980 California models and all 1981 to 1982 examples, featuring a specially designed Lucas electronic control unit. This made the TR8 one of the most technologically sophisticated British sports cars of its era, showcasing engineering excellence that deserved better market conditions. Performance was genuinely impressive. American automotive journalists praised the TR8's handling, acceleration, and distinctive wedge styling. Here was a legitimate Corvette competitor with European refinement and sporting credentials that could have revitalized British sports car exports. But external factors conspired against success. British Leyland was hemorrhaging money during the early 1980s recession, losing funds on every car produced. The TR8's $11,200 to $12,000 price tag brought it uncomfortably close to the $15,000 Chevrolet Corvette, creating an impossible competitive situation. Rising fuel prices impacted V8 sales across the industry, while constant labor strikes and management changes disrupted production schedules and destroyed market confidence. Low-volume sports cars became prime targets for elimination, as British Leyland focused desperately on volume models. The final blow came on October 5, 1981, when production ceased permanently. Only approximately 2,750 units were ever built worldwide, with just 22 right-hand drive examples created for the UK market. The majority went to American and Canadian buyers who never got to see the car's full potential realized. The TR8's cancellation marked the end of mass-market British sports car manufacturing. When that last wedge rolled off the production line, it concluded a sporting Triumph lineage, dating back to the 1920s, and effectively ended Britain's role in affordable sports car production. Despite earning recognition as the English Corvette and receiving enthusiastic reviews from the American motoring press, the TR8's rarity has made it largely forgotten compared to its TR7 sibling. Its brief production run represents one of automotive history's greatest missed opportunities, a car that could have changed British sports car fortunes if circumstances had aligned differently.
The Monaca 560. While America was experimenting with turbocharging, France was nurturing an even more ambitious dream. In the elegant workshops of a small company outside Paris, a successful rail industry industrialist named Jean Tastvin was attempting something that seemed impossible, creating a French luxury sports car that could compete with the world's finest automobiles. The Monaca 560 represents one of the most fascinating what-if stories in automotive history. Named in honor of Tastvin's wife, Monique, this project consumed 7 years of development and an enormous personal fortune, all in pursuit of creating what Tastvin called a French Ferrari. The story began in 1967 when Tastvin, flush with success from his rail industry empire, decided that France deserved a prestigious luxury sports sedan. He enlisted the help of Chris Lawrence and Ted Martin, two respected figures in British motorsport, to help develop his vision. The original plan was ambitious beyond belief. Tastvin wanted to create everything from scratch: a custom engine, a unique chassis, distinctive styling, and luxurious appointments that would establish a new French luxury car brand. Initial development work focused on a Ted Martin-designed 3.4-liter V8 engine that would be exclusively Monaca's. Between 1968 and 1972, the Monaca went through multiple prototype phases. Various styling iterations were tested, different engine configurations were tried, and Tastvin poured money into development with the dedication of someone who truly believed he could will a new car company into existence through sheer determination. However, reality eventually intruded on Tastvin's dreams. Engine development proved far more costly and time-consuming than anticipated. The custom V8 was struggling with reliability issues, and the mounting development costs were becoming unsustainable. Reluctantly, Tastvin made the pragmatic decision to abandon the custom engine and source a proven power plant from an established manufacturer. The solution came from America in the form of Chrysler's proven 340 cubic inch V8 engine. This 5.6-liter power plant produced 285 horsepower at 5,000 revolutions per minute and provided the reliability that Tastvin's custom engine couldn't deliver. Paired with either a ZF 5-speed manual transmission or Chrysler's reliable torque flight automatic, the Monaca finally had the mechanical foundation it needed. The Monaca's technical specifications were genuinely impressive. The tubular backbone chassis featured a triangulated space frame construction that provided excellent rigidity while keeping weight reasonable. The suspension used a sophisticated de Dion rear axle with trailing arms, delivering handling characteristics that could compete with established sports cars. But the Monaca's true innovation was in its construction. The body was crafted entirely from aluminum, an advanced technique that was still relatively rare in the early 1970s. This all-aluminum construction kept the car's weight manageable despite its substantial size as a 4-door, 4-seat sports sedan. The Monaca was positioned in a unique market segment. It offered exotic car performance in a 4-door configuration that was extremely rare in the supercar world. With a top speed of 240 kilometers per hour, or approximately 149 miles per hour, the Monica could genuinely claim supercar performance credentials. 22 prototypes were built between 1968 and 1972, each one teaching valuable lessons and bringing the design closer to production readiness. When regular production finally began in 1973, each Monica was essentially hand-built, with individual attention paid to every detail. The final product was everything Taisvin had envisioned, a uniquely French interpretation of the luxury sports car. The Monica combined Italian styling influences with American V8 power and French craftsmanship, creating something that had never existed before. So why did this remarkable car disappear almost immediately? The answer lies in a perfect storm of bad timing, unrealistic pricing, and market forces beyond Taisvin's control. At 164,000 francs, approximately $34,000 in contemporary American money, the Monica cost as much as a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. This pricing put it in direct competition with established luxury brands that had decades of reputation and dealer networks to support their premium positioning. Worse timing couldn't have been possible. The 1973 oil crisis devastated the luxury car market just as Monica production was getting underway. Suddenly, large displacement V8 engines became politically and economically problematic, and the market for expensive, fuel-thirsty luxury cars evaporated virtually overnight. Taisvin's inexperience in automotive manufacturing also worked against him. While his passion and financial resources were admirable, the automotive industry requires specialized expertise in production, distribution, and service that can't be improvised. The extended development period had consumed enormous resources without establishing the infrastructure necessary for sustainable production. The luxury car market was already saturated with established brands like Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, and Aston Martin. These companies had spent decades building their reputations and establishing dealer networks worldwide. Monica, despite its impressive capabilities, was starting from zero in a market that values heritage and proven track record above almost everything else. Production numbers tell the story of dreams meeting reality. Only 17 Monica 560s were actually sold to customers, though some sources suggest the total might have been as low as 8 or as high as 22, depending on how prototypes and development cars are counted. By any measure, it was a commercial disaster. In February 1975, Jean Taisvin announced the company's closure. His personal fortune from the rail industry had been consumed by the automotive dream, and there was simply no path forward. The Monica project, which had consumed 7 years of development and millions of francs, was over. The Monica represents the last serious French attempt to create a luxury sports car brand after the earlier failure of Facel Vega. It embodies the optimism of the 1960s and early 1970s, when boutique manufacturers believed they could compete with established brands through superior craftsmanship and innovative design. The project's failure marked the end of France's ambitions in the luxury sports car segment. Subsequent French automotive efforts focused on mass-market vehicles from companies like Peugeot, Citroën, and Renault, or specialized racing cars rather than road-going exotics. Today, Monica 560s are among the rarest production cars ever made. The few surviving examples are extraordinarily valuable, with documented cars selling for between $200,000 and $400,000 at auction. The combination of extreme rarity, French automotive history, and unique design makes them highly sought after by collectors who specialize in obscure European exotics. Jean Taisvin's story is one of admirable ambition meeting harsh reality. He had the vision, the passion, and the financial resources to attempt something extraordinary. What he lacked was the timing, market understanding, and automotive industry experience necessary to succeed. The Monica remains a beautiful testament to the power of dreams, even when those dreams don't come true.
In 1982, rally racing was undergoing a revolution. Audi had shocked the motorsport world with their Quattro, a four-wheel drive monster that could claw through snow, mud, and gravel with supernatural grip. Every other manufacturer was scrambling to develop their own all-wheel drive systems. Every manufacturer except Lancia. Instead of following the crowd, Lancia decided to fight fire with fire. They would build a rear-wheel drive car so perfectly engineered, so brilliantly executed, that it could beat the four-wheel drive competition through pure talent and determination. The result was the 037 Stradale, a road car that existed for one reason: to homologate one of the most successful rally cars in history. The 037 started life as a Lancia Monte Carlo, but that's where the similarities ended. Lancia engineers threw out almost everything except the basic platform. They added custom tube frame sections, redesigned the suspension with double A-arms and twin rear shock absorbers, and wrapped it all in aggressive Kevlar composite bodywork that was wider, lower, and more purposeful than anything Lancia had built before. Under the hood sat an engine that perfectly captured the spirit of early 1980s performance technology. The 1,995 cubic centimeter dual overhead cam 16-valve four-cylinder was developed by Abarth, Lancia's performance partner. But the real magic came from the supercharger. This wasn't a turbocharger like most manufacturers were using. It was a Roots-type Volume X supercharger that provided instant power delivery without the lag that plagued turbocharged engines of the era. The numbers were impressive for 1982. 205 horsepower at 7,000 revolutions per minute, and 166 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 revolutions per minute, sent through a ZF transaxle to the rear wheels. Top speed was 137 miles per hour, or 220 kilometers per hour. 0 to 60 happened in exactly 7 seconds. More importantly, the 037 weighed just 2,579 pounds, or 1,170 kilograms, giving it a power-to-weight ratio that could embarrass much more expensive supercars. But raw performance numbers didn't tell the whole story. The 037 was engineered for one specific purpose: winning rallies. The suspension was rock-hard, sound insulation was minimal. The interior featured a roll cage that made entry and exit an athletic event. The dashboard was designed for rally co-drivers, not comfort-seeking buyers. This was a race car with number plates, and Lancia made no apologies for that fact. Group B regulations required manufacturers to build at least 200 road-going examples to qualify for competition. Lancia built exactly 217 Stradales between 1982 and 1984, though some sources claim the total was 222, including prototypes. Either way, this was never intended to be a volume seller. It was a regulatory requirement that Lancia fulfilled with typical Italian flair. The racing version justified every compromise. The 1983 World Rally Championship season opened with the 037 taking a 1-2 finish at the Monte Carlo Rally. Drivers like Walter Röhrl, Marco Allen, and Attilio Bettigai proved that superior team organization and driver skill could overcome technological disadvantages. The 037 won the 1983 Manufacturers' Championship, making it the last rear-wheel drive car to achieve this feat. This victory was extraordinary because the 037 was fighting an uphill battle from day one. On tarmac and dry gravel, it could match or beat the Audi Quattro. But in loose conditions, snow, or heavy rain, the four-wheel drive Audis had a fundamental advantage that no amount of engineering could overcome. Lancia's success came from choosing their battles carefully and executing their strategy flawlessly. The supercharger made all the difference. While turbocharged engines of the era suffered from lag and unpredictable power delivery, the 037's Roots-type blower provided linear, predictable performance. The distinctive whine became one of the most recognizable sounds in motorsport. Rally fans could identify a 037 from miles away just by listening to its approach. Contemporary reviews of the Stradale focused on its uncompromising nature. Road testers described a harsh ride, difficult entry and exit, and minimal creature comforts. But they also praised its authenticity. This wasn't a softened road car pretending to be a racer. It was a genuine competition machine that happened to be street legal. The automotive press understood what Lancia had achieved. The 037 represented pure motorsport DNA, translated into road car form. Every component served a purpose. Every design decision prioritized performance over comfort. In an era when most manufacturers were adding luxury features and electronic aids, Lancia stripped away everything that didn't make the car faster. By 1984, the four-wheel drive revolution had made the 037's philosophy obsolete. Even the improved Evolution 2 version couldn't match the grip and versatility of all-wheel drive competitors. Lancia's brilliant rear-drive experiment had reached the end of its evolutionary path. Production ended as Group B regulations evolved to favor the very technology Lancia had chosen to reject. The 037's disappearance marked the end of an era. Never again would a rear-wheel drive car win the World Rally Championship. The transition to four-wheel drive was complete, and there was no going back. What had started as Lancia's defiant stand against conventional wisdom became a beautiful swan song for traditional rally car engineering. Today, the 037 Stradale is one of the most collectible Group B cars ever built. Values have doubled or tripled in recent years, with basic examples selling for over $400,000. The combination of extreme rarity, historic significance, and Group B mystique has made these cars almost priceless. None were originally sold in the United States due to safety and emissions regulations, but several examples have entered the country through the 25-year import rule. Collectors appreciate the 037 for what it represents, the last hurrah of rear-wheel drive rally dominance. It's a car that existed at a specific moment in motorsport history, when skill and engineering could still triumph over technological superiority. That moment passed quickly, but the 037 captured it perfectly.
The Monteverdi High Speed 375S. Our final forgotten gem takes us to Switzerland, where the most unlikely automotive success story of the 1960s was unfolding. The Monteverdi High Speed 375S represents Switzerland's bold and surprisingly successful entry into the world of exotic supercars, created by a man whose confrontation with Enzo Ferrari changed the course of automotive history. The story begins with Peter Monteverdi, a Swiss racing driver and entrepreneur born in 1934. At the remarkably young age of 21, Monteverdi had been awarded the Ferrari agency for Switzerland, a coveted position that should have set him up for a prosperous career selling Italy's most prestigious sports cars. But Monteverdi's relationship with Ferrari ended before it really began, thanks to a confrontation that revealed both his business principles and his stubborn streak. Enzo Ferrari demanded that the young Swiss dealer purchase 100 cars up front as a condition of maintaining the franchise. Monteverdi refused this demand, believing it was unreasonable for a new dealer in a small market. This confrontation could have ended Monteverdi's automotive ambitions entirely. Instead, it sparked a decision that seems almost impossibly audacious in retrospect. He would create his own cars to compete with Ferrari and other established exotic car manufacturers. Based in Binningen on the southern edge of Basel, Switzerland, Monteverdi established his car manufacturing operation in 1967. His vision was simultaneously practical and revolutionary: create reliable, powerful grand touring cars that could compete with established manufacturers like Ferrari and Maserati, while offering superior dependability through proven American drivetrains. The logic was compelling. Italian exotic cars of the 1960s were notorious for their temperamental nature and expensive maintenance requirements. What if you could combine Italian styling and European craftsmanship with the proven reliability of American V8 engines? The result might be the best of both worlds: exotic car performance with the dependability that luxury car owners actually wanted. The high-speed 375S made its debut at the September 1967 Frankfurt Motor Show, immediately establishing Monteverdi as a serious contender in the exotic car market. The automotive press was intrigued by this unknown Swiss manufacturer presenting a car that looked like it belonged on the same show floor as Ferrari and Lamborghini. The heart of the Monteverdi was pure American muscle, a Chrysler 440 Magnum V8 engine displacing 7.2 liters, or 440 cubic inches. This massive engine produced 375 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque, providing performance that could genuinely challenge any exotic car of the era. The performance numbers were impressive by any standard. The high-speed 375S could reach a top speed of 229.3 kilometers per hour, or 142.5 miles per hour. The acceleration from 0 to 62 miles per hour required just 8.2 seconds in the two-seater version, while the four-door 3 75/4 sedan version accomplished the same sprint in an even more impressive 6.9 seconds. What made the Monteverdi truly special was the international collaboration behind its creation. The chassis was Monteverdi's own design, featuring a box frame constructed from square steel tubes. This chassis was manufactured by Stahlbau AG in nearby Muttenz, Basel Landschaft, ensuring Swiss precision in the car's structural foundation. The suspension components came from established European suppliers known for their quality. Front suspension was supplied by Alford and Alder from the United Kingdom, while rear axles came from Salisbury. Braking was handled by Girling Systems, and steering came from ZF, both companies with excellent reputations for reliability and performance. The body design was entrusted to Pietro Frua, the same Italian master who had styled the Glass 2600. Frua created elegant proportions that successfully combined American muscle car aggression with European sophistication. The actual body construction was handled by Carrozzeria Fissore in Italy, ensuring traditional Italian coach-building craftsmanship. Final assembly took place in Monteverdi's Swiss facility in Binningen, where each car received the attention to detail that Swiss manufacturing was famous for. This international collaboration created a truly unique product. Swiss engineering excellence combined with Italian styling and American power. The high-speed 375S was offered in several configurations, but the most exclusive was the two-seater version with approximately 11 bodies, completed by Frua's atelier between 1968 and 1969. These cars featured racing-inspired details like center-lock wheels that hinted at their serious performance capabilities.
The Toyota 222D represents rally's ultimate what-if story, a mid-engine monster that could have redefined motorsport, if not for tragedy striking the sport itself. Developed under strict secrecy starting in 1984, this project aimed to create the most extreme rally car ever conceived. Toyota's timing seemed perfect. The MR2 had just launched in 1984, providing an ideal mid-engine platform for rally domination. The new Group S regulations proposed by FISA promised even more extreme machinery than the already legendary Group B cars that were thrilling and terrifying audiences worldwide. Working entirely in-house to maximize knowledge retention, Toyota set an aggressive December 1985 completion target. This wasn't badge engineering or outsourced development. Toyota was building their rally future from the ground up, investing heavily in what they believed would dominate the World Rally Championship. The 222D shared the MR2's basic mid-engine silhouette, but had virtually nothing else in common with the road car. Engineers created an entirely different construction method, using a central monocoque with tubular rear subframe, representing purpose-built racing technology rather than modified production car components. Under the engine cover sat Toyota's turbocharged masterpiece. Variants included the 503E at 2,140 cubic centimeters and 4TGTE at 2,090 cubic centimeters. A single KKKK27 turbocharger with air-to-air intercooler fed Nippodenso D Jetronic electronic fuel injection, producing 380 brake horsepower at 9,000 revolutions per minute and 317 pound-feet of torque at 5,500 revolutions per minute in development trim. But those were conservative numbers. Race-ready specification promised up to 750 horsepower from the same basic engine package. Combined with the car's featherweight, 750 kilogram, or approximately 1,650 pound mass, the power-to-weight ratio would have been absolutely devastating on rally stages. The drivetrain innovation was equally revolutionary. Toyota developed a torque split mechanism, allowing drivers to switch between 2- and 4-wheel drive during competition. Rear-wheel drive mode optimized tarmac performance, while the X-Track 4-wheel drive system handled gravel stages. No rally car had ever offered such versatility. Entirely lightweight composite body panels covered advanced aerodynamics that wouldn't appear in production cars for decades. The 222D represented the absolute cutting edge of 1980s motorsport technology, incorporating innovations that influenced rally car development for generations. Then rallying's darkest period began. Fatal crashes in 1985 prompted FISA to reconsider the proposed Group S regulations. But the real catastrophe came in 1986. The tragic events of that season's Tour de Course changed motorsport forever. Within 24 hours of deciding to ban Group B cars from 1987, announced the day after the fateful 1986 Tour de Course, FISA also canceled Group S completely. This sudden rule change came despite manufacturers having invested years and millions of dollars developing Group S contenders. Toyota's development team watched helplessly as their nearly completed project became worthless overnight. The sport's governing body's dramatic turnaround left them with a finished but unusable race car, representing one of motorsport history's most expensive canceled projects. Between 10 to 11 prototypes were completed before cancellation, but only 3 examples survive today. A black example resides at Toyota Motorsport GmbH in Cologne, Germany, while a white example is displayed at Toyota's Mega Web showroom in Tokyo, Japan. The third example's location varies depending on sources. The 222D's advanced technology eventually influenced Toyota's later rally efforts, contributing to their World Rally Championship success with more conventional cars. The switchable drivetrain concept and extreme power-to-weight ratio pushed boundaries that mainstream automotive development eventually reached. For enthusiasts, the Toyota 222D has become legend, a glimpse of what Group S rallying might have achieved, if not for the tragic events that reshaped motorsport safety forever. It represents the peak of 1980s rally car development and the end of the anything goes philosophy that created increasingly spectacular and dangerous competition machines. The Nissan R390 GT1 road car represents the ultimate expression of homologation loopholes taken to their absolute extreme. In September 1996, Nissan President Yoshikazu Hanawa signed a 2-year agreement that would create one of the most exclusive supercars ever built, and then immediately abandon it. This wasn't about building road cars. GT1 regulations required manufacturers to produce at least one road-legal version for racing homologation, and Nissan identified this loophole as their ticket to Le Mans victory. Like Porsche with their 911 GT1, Nissan would create a purpose-built racing car with minimal concessions to actual road use. Developed by Tom Walkinshaw Racing in England, the R390 represented Nissan's serious commitment to endurance racing dominance. The company invested heavily in what they hoped would be a championship-winning program, with the road car existing purely to satisfy bureaucratic requirements. The result was automotive insanity, disguised as legal compliance. The VRH35L twin-turbocharged 3.5-liter V8 produced 558 PS, or 550 horsepower, at 6,800 revolutions per minute, generating 470 pound-feet of torque at 4,400 revolutions per minute. Nissan officially claimed over 350 PS for homologation purposes, understating the true output by nearly 200 horsepower. The all-carbon fiber chassis weighed just 1,100 kilograms, or 2,420 pounds, creating a power-to-weight ratio that was frankly dangerous for road use. An X-Track 6-speed sequential manual transmission delivered power to the rear wheels, while massive AP 14-inch vented disc brakes with 6 piston calipers provided stopping power worthy of Le Mans competition. Advanced technology included launch control and traction control systems, cutting-edge features for the late 1990s. The suspension used upper and lower A-arm configuration with coil springs, inboard shock absorbers, and anti-roll bars front and rear, derived directly from the racing car setup. Performance figures were staggering. 0 to 60 miles per hour took just 3.9 seconds, with quarter-mile times of 11.9 seconds. Nissan claimed a top speed of 354 kilometers per hour or 220 miles per hour, though this remained unverified due to the car's track-focused gearing and aerodynamics. The car's proportions were dictated by racing requirements rather than road usability. Measuring 185.8 inches long and 78.7 inches wide, the R390's extremely low, wide stance made it virtually unusable on public roads despite its legal registration. This was a race car wearing number plates. The R390's brief racing career was genuinely successful. 4 cars entered Le Mans 1998, achieving remarkable results with 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 10th overall finishes. These results demonstrated what Nissan could accomplish when fully committed to motorsport excellence. But success came too late. Following the 1998 Le Mans 24 Hours, GT1 rules changed significantly to prevent manufacturers from exploiting homologation loopholes. The new LMGTP prototype class for 1999 allowed more race-specific construction without road-going requirements, making the R390's entire concept obsolete. Faced with completely redesigning the R390 as a prototype or abandoning the program entirely, Nissan chose the latter. Rising development costs, combined with increasing competitiveness from Mercedes and Toyota in the revised GT classes, made continuation financially unviable. After mixed results in 1998 to 1999, including some victories over Toyota at Fuji Speedway, Nissan discontinued Le Mans-style racing at the end of 1999. The company shifted focus to other motorsport disciplines, ending their brief but spectacular return to endurance racing. Only one road car was ever built, never intended for sale, though Nissan offered to build additional examples at $1 million each. 8 racing chassis were constructed over 2 years, but the sole road car remains the ultimate forbidden fruit for collectors. The R390 GT1 represents the peak of GT1 homologation specials and the end of an era in endurance racing. Its extreme specifications and single-car production run make it one of the most exclusive supercars ever created, existing solely to satisfy racing regulations that would be changed before the car could fulfill its purpose. Currently residing in Nismo's Zama warehouse alongside the number 32 race car, the R390 road car stands as a monument to automotive extremism and regulatory manipulation, a supercar that was never meant to be super, created for a purpose that vanished before completion.